Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. I am your host, Neil Horowitz. You can find me on LinkedIn, where I post more content. Check me out on Twitter, NJH287. Connect with me there. Visit the website, dsmsports.net, for more episodes and content. And, of course, follow along and check out the podcast on whichever podcast platform is your favorite. We have a best of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast for you today. Again, we try to do these once a quarter to catch up on a lot of these episodes. It blows me away over the years on all the great conversations I get to have. And if you miss any of them, this will give you just a little taste. And then you can always go back and listen to the full episodes if you like. And we have such a stellar lineup on this best of edition. It just really is amazing how I got all these guests, especially in consecutive episodes. So you're in for a treat. This episode's 150 through 154. And you're going to hear from the following people. First up is going to be my brother, Stephen Horowitz. It was a special episode for episode number 150, and really listening back to it, super interesting conversation. You get to ask all the questions, or at least I did, that I would want to ask the quote-unquote normal fan. Get to hear about how he consumes content, what kind of content he prefers, which platforms he's on, how he watches a game with a second screen, and a really interesting insight into how daily fantasy kind of turned him into a pretty avid NBA fan. So really inside the mind of the millennial sports fan as you listen to Steven. The next up after him will be Chris Grossi, Assistant Athletic Director for Marketing and Fan Experience at Penn State Athletics. Chris is really one of the GOATs in the space, and you're really going to enjoy hearing from him. Then you'll hear from Cassie Epstein. She is with Gillette Stadium, and as well as the New England Patriots, New England Revolution, everything they have going on at the venue. She gives some great insight, so you're going to enjoy the conversation with Cassie. She is a delight and is really awesome and smart and one of the best people in the space as well. Followed by Cassie will be Dan Maraza. He is another GOAT. Again, I had no idea how I had this many great people in a row, but somehow we did it. Dan back then was with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now he's with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Dan is just full of great insight stories. You're really going to like this piece of the interview with him. And then lastly, on this Best of Edition, you'll hear from Chris Gehring. Back then, he was with the Washington Wizards. Now he's doing digital and social with Red Peg Marketing, working on some cool projects there. So, to kick things off, let's start with Stephen Horowitz, my twin brother, a millennial, about how millennials consume sports. And again, getting to ask all those questions that we want to be able to ask our fans. So listen up. Here is Stephen on the Best of Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast.
So Facebook, I really use that more on a personal level. I do follow some sports on there to a degree, but I've found the interaction there is not as, to me, as good as what's available on Twitter per se, and maybe even Instagram to a degree. So Facebook's more on a personal level. Instagram, I really use that to sort of follow, whether it's news or sports players, sports teams, I'm following that on Instagram. And then Twitter, I really use Twitter for sports, whether it's following the beat writers, the teams themselves, the athletes. I obviously do follow the news on Twitter as well, but really I find myself using Twitter the most out of all my social media platforms, and I've found it as a good resource to get constant updates and quick updates on what's going on in the sports world and the world itself.
And when you're watching a full game on TV or whatever source it may be, is Twitter your second screen? Do you have a second screen? Or are you just checking for updates if someone gets hurt and you might check on Twitter to see if you can get an update on their injury status?
I mean, when I'm watching like Padre games at home, I definitely have my phone in front of me. Whether it's I'm on Twitter checking out just what's going on, whether it's just seeing what people are posting, or if it's checking on another game on my phone, checking the score on another game. But I definitely am finding myself having two screens in front of me a lot.
But I do know that you are, it pains me to say it, but you're an egg on Twitter. You are an egg, I think, unless you add a profile photo. So you're not actively posting on Twitter. Or are you liking things? Have you had opportunities where you have tweet a question or a response to a reporter, to a player, and gotten a response back? Like, what's your interaction like on Twitter, if it exists at all?
I guess I would be considered an egg on Twitter. I don't post on Twitter too often. I have every once in a while, whether it's just interacting at a sports event. I have tweeted at a couple people before. I think Kevin Acey with the UT being one of them. He never responded though.
So for Twitter though, and also your timeline, is it in chronological order, or do you have it set to show the top tweets first?
I probably have it set however it's just standardly set. So, I mean, it can be frustrating sometimes, actually. So, I probably need to learn how to sort my tweets a little better. But I definitely go on there, and sometimes I'm seeing stuff I don't really want to see. It's older stuff, catching me up on stuff. So, I have it set to the standard default settings, and maybe I need to look into change that up a little bit.
I'll give you a little lesson after we're done talking today, maybe.
All right.
In terms of, let's shift a little bit, talking about the type of content you like to consume. So far I'm hearing news, I've heard highlights. A lot of what people in the social media space work on is they talk about long form content, talk about feature content, behind the scenes content, especially with Instagram stories. You kind of get that sideline footage or that locker room footage that you may not get elsewhere. So just tell me, what kind of content do you consume generally, and what kind of content would you want to see more of or less of?
I mean, generally, I still like reading about whether it's reading news stories, short or long. I still do like doing that, but I do enjoy feature videos, whether they're about a specific player, a feel good story. Behind the scenes access can always be interesting sometimes, but I still do find myself reading a lot of articles, whether it's articles that are tweeted or me just going on the internet and finding whatever on there to read. But yeah.
What's when you see a video in particular, what is that sweet spot for duration? Like, is there if you see, oh crap, it's a 4.5 minute video, that's a little bit too long for me, or I prefer a 2-minute video, or does it not really matter, or does it also depend on what you're doing at the time?
I'd say it depends on what you're doing and what the content is. If it's something that's really, interesting, I don't mind watching a 5-6 minute video, but I'd say a good sweet spot's probably closer to 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
Okay. And for Instagram stories, are you do you find yourself taking action from those stories? Do you oftentimes swipe up or click watch more, or even click into IGTV if you know what that is, or are you tapping pretty quickly when you're going through stories?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the Instagram TV. I'd say typically I go through stories pretty quickly. Every once in a while, I will click that button where you can watch more. I will watch that if it's interesting. Other than that, I'm typically going through them pretty quickly though.
Okay. One more thing before we get into a little bit of your past as a Chargers fan. We'll get into that in just a second. But I want to kind of hear about especially the last couple months of NBA free agency with so many Woj bombs. If I'm sure you've heard that term before.
Yep.
Are you looking for those Woj bombs? How are you generally discovering big news? Are you discovering it on Twitter, or are you usually discovering it from someone else? And when you do find big news, what do you do? What do you do with it? If you see that Sean Miller is on a wiretap, are you texting some friends? Are you going on Facebook Messenger? How are you interacting with sports news, and how are you discovering it?
It really depends on obviously the time and the story, but typically for me, how I'm finding out on a normal basis, unless I happen to be on Twitter when the story breaks, it's typically a push notification for one of my apps telling me about a breaking story. I'm kind of thinking about a breaking news story. For me personally, it was a breaking news story that happened recently, was Fernando Tatis's injury.
Yeah.
And learning that he was most likely going to be out for the whole season. I happened to be on Twitter when, again, I'm going to say Kevin Acee from the UT broke the story that he was most likely to be out for the year, and that's how I found about that. And, shortly after seeing that on Twitter, probably within the next 10, 15 minutes, I started getting the notifications on from the apps on my phone. But when I did find that out about his injury, I definitely was tweeting someone I work with, or not tweeting. I texted him someone I work with that's a big fan of him, and just to let him know.
Yeah.
But other than that, most part, unless I just happen to catch it, it's just finding out from notifications, or whether it's another friend or colleague texting me before they hear it, before I do.
Yeah, that was a tough one to swallow. I was on Twitter when I saw that one as well. That was not fun. All right, for another not fun subject, let's talk about the fact that so when we were in high school, you had I think a couple of years as a Chargers season ticket holder, maybe after high school. So tell me, I guess first, what made you invest in season tickets? Like what were kind of the reasons behind it? And when you were a season ticket holder, did you go in planning on going to all 8 games? Or did you plan on also, hey, let's sell some of this and we can make our money back? So kind of what are the factors of becoming a season ticket holder and what you did once you were a season ticket holder?
So I was a season ticket holder two separate times. I believe one was, I don't think it was in high school. I think it was after college. And then I got him again. I didn't get him for a couple years, and I got him again with now my fiance. We had them for a year or two as well. And I'd say the real reason why I wanted to go and get season tickets was my love for the team. There's nothing that I enjoyed more going tailgating at the Charger games and spending the day at the stadium and seeing them win. It was obviously never got to see them win at all here, but it was it was a good time, and I always look fondly back at those times. And I wish they were still here, but the reality is they're not. And but going back into your question as well, I did always get season tickets intending to go to all 8 regular season games. Obviously, we were forced into buying preseason tickets as well, so we didn't always go to those games. Sometimes we'd give them to friends, sometimes we'd be able to sell them, but we definitely did not buy our season tickets with the intention of selling the regular season games. Obviously, there were times where I'd probably just look on StubHub or something like that to see what tickets were going for, to see sometimes when the Broncos came into town or the Raiders or another big team that doesn't come here often, you had the option to sell them for a good amount of money. But for me, I never did that. My love for the team and the game, I wanted to be there.
And did you ever kind of take note of those games when the face value of your ticket was, being diluted because they were going cheaper on the secondary, or because the Chargers were having a special deal, or did you not really notice that? And you feel like you got enough value for your whole season?
Yeah, I didn't really notice that. I just felt like I had good value for what I had, and I had good seats, and I just, like I said, I just enjoyed going to games, and that's really all I cared about. I loved my team, and that's why I was there, and it's really all that mattered to me when I was there. Yeah,
it's crazy to think now that we talk about all these different amenities at games. We talk about Wi-Fi, we talk about just fan experience overall, and prices of concessions, price of beer, and all that. And it's cool that you just you loved being there, and you loved just the experience of the whole day of tailgating. So tell me though about what happened as the Chargers left, and you said screw the Chargers, and how your fandom has kind of evolved since then. You said earlier you don't really have a team anymore. So what's an NFL Sunday like for you now? And then let's get into a little bit of how fantasy comes into play.
Yeah, so it was kind of evolving. I did have season tickets for the Chargers towards the end of their time here. I chose not to get it their last season here because I just did not believe that they were going to stay. And sure enough, they left. And it was obviously devastating at the time, and it still hurts, but I've kind of moved on, and like kind of how you said, I don't really root for an NFL team. I tried to root for the Arizona Cardinals just because I went to school there. They haven't made it easy to root for them. They've been a little bad the last few years. So but even with them having good games here and there, I like the players on the team. It just never felt the same, and I don't think it will ever feel the same, unfortunately. But to me, the NFL has become different. I still enjoy watching it, but the way I experience NFL now, it really revolves around fantasy football. And I watch it to see how my players are doing, see how my team's doing, my fantasy team, and that's really how I go about watching football now. And it's kind of, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but I won my fantasy league last year, and I'm able to be unbiased now on who I choose for my teams and who I start in my weekly matchups, just because I don't have to worry about, are they playing against the Chargers, or is there a Charger involved in some way? So it's definitely changed the way I watch and view football.
I can remember plenty of Sundays when you were both, having those bittersweet moments when a fantasy player scored but it was against the Chargers or something like that. Tell me real quickly, what's your Sunday setup look like? All right, do you have your fantasy team pulled up? Do you have any fantasy app open? Do you have Twitter open constantly? What's your Sunday setup look like for Red Zone?
So my Sunday setups now for Red Zone definitely, kind of going back to the question a little bit too, it used to be different. I used to watch the Red Zone channel. When I was a Charger fan, I used to watch the Red Zone channel as well, but when a Charger game was on, the Red Zone channel went off. Mm-hmm. That is not the case anymore. So now my Sundays consist of pretty much when the first game starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time, I'm in front of my TV with the Red Zone channel on, and typically have my laptop up with me with my fantasy team on there, whether it's my daily fantasy or my season-long one. And then I'm usually having my phone in front of me as well, and more so on my phone, I'll be checking other teams, other scores for the other games going on, and Twitter, really. Mm-hmm.
That's I'm sure your fiance and soon-to-be wife just loves those Sundays when you sit on the couch and don't move.
Oh yeah, definitely loves it. But she's prepared for it. She knows it's coming, and we're only a few weeks away from actually a couple weeks away from from the season starting. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure she's not, but.
You timed the wedding perfectly too, right before football season. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're right around it. So tell me then also, you mentioned daily fantasy. When did you start with daily fantasy? Did it start with football, and have you tried out other sports as well?
So it definitely started with football. I don't know exactly when I started playing. I'd say it was probably really getting into it the last 3 or 4 years, probably like 3 years ago. And it obviously started with NFL. I have gone and played other sports in daily as well. I've tried playing baseball daily fantasy as well. I don't find myself enjoying it as much as NFL. And then surprisingly, I really started playing NBA daily fantasy as well, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, and that was something that really struck me. I think I vividly remember. I think we were sitting at a Padres game, and all of a sudden you started talking about some of these NBA players that were relatively fringe players, and I was like, how the heck does Steven know about these players? And I realized it's because you needed to pick some guys in your daily fantasy and get some bang for your buck. So, I guess how does that happen? Did you all of a sudden start just reading a lot more of Roto World NBA? Do you start paying attention to more of the teams and who's coming up? And how does your fandom? Did you become an NBA fan just by default, or were you just more so just looking at the stats and just trying to make money?
So I never hated the NBA, but I was not a huge fan of it. I followed it casually, but more so in the playoffs. But honestly, kind of how this happened is, on the daily fantasy league or the daily fantasy website that I play on, typically, they gave me, I think, a free play that had winning. You could win money in, but I had a free play for an NBA one, and I played it, and I think I ended up in pretty high in the standings. Whether it was just a coincidence or not, I won some money, and that kind of just got me hooked, and I started playing NBA dailies almost every day, and that quickly kind of evolved into really enjoying not just following the sport, but I actually enjoyed. I found myself watching the NBA on TV regular season, and I hadn't done that in years. And I kind of, I was obviously I would check Roto World a lot because I was kind of having to teach myself about some of these players too, so I would kind of see what Roto World was saying about them, what they had been doing over the past month or so. I would check their stats on whatever website, and then I would also sometimes just look at who they were going up against, and I kind of just really started enjoying it, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to continuing playing it.
So much fun being able to learn from Steven. These are the conversations that I'll have with him and other people in my family all the time. Me trying to pick the brain of a quote-unquote normal sports fan about how they consume content, why they like the sports and teams that they do, and how they like to consume on social media and sports as well. Next up on the Best of Digital Social Media Sports podcast, what an awesome chance to be able to interview this guy. You're going to hear from Chris Grossi. Again, he is Assistant AD for Marketing and Fan Experience at Penn State. Just a tremendous episode, that full episode, hearing about his pathway to get where he is today, including a great stint at Georgetown, now, of course, with Penn State, continuing to do great things there, and really just someone that everyone in the space can look up to. He has developed a lot of talent underneath him. He continues to thrive and grow himself, and just full of great stories about using social media to balance both promoting local events as well as engaging a national fan base for those Penn State fans that they can't just pick up and go to a volleyball match over the weekend. And you also talk about how some of those fun promotions that he's become well known for, really creative stuff, just so many good stories from Chris, and you're going to enjoy hearing this little bit of our episode. So listen up, here is Chris Grossi of Penn State Athletics.
I think our social teams do a good job in kind of keeping people in the know on social and making some shareable content that gets sent around. I definitely think there's ways to kind of to get better at that. But really our social initiatives really try to we try to make them more universal than super state college specific about stuff that's going on, just because our fan base is so big and so it's national, it's international. So if we start tailoring all of our messaging to just a local audience, and come out to this volleyball game tomorrow on a Wednesday night, we're not going to be creating content that the majority of our fans are going to consume. So we try to, I've always approached social media as a way to just create conversation and to bring back great memories, play on your past, get excited about the future type of thing.
Yeah, and I think what's cool too, I talk to a lot of pro sports folks on here as well, and we're always talking about how do you monetize the 85% of your fan base on social that is not within a reasonable distance to even come to a game. And we talk about sponsorship is certainly a part of that, but in the college world, there is certainly an ROI for having an engaged fan base on social, because you have people that can donate, or people that make a pilgrimage back to campus every so often to see a game, or even to and now also Big Ten Network, BTN Plus, and those platforms as well. So there certainly is ways to quote unquote drive ROI from those fans that aren't able to pick up and check out a volleyball game tonight.
Exactly.
I did want to go into a little bit of how you have driven a lot of conversation on social, and also too, recently at Big Ten Media Days, the Pat Fitzgerald, the coach of Northwestern, made a big thing about phones being the anti for attendance these days, and fans looking down at phones. So I would love to hear, and you laid out earlier about being able to go to a game and cheer your brains out and have a great time with the atmosphere. Is that really what you're trying to drive? And I guess what does drive attendance at Penn State games, both the bigger sports and also those sports that are usually for some schools harder to get attendance for, but that Penn State is succeeding on?
Yeah, so I'm not going to make any friends in the business with this conversation, because I believe when that same question was asked to our coach, Coach Franklin, he said, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask this question to. I'm at Penn State, so we have an incredibly supportive fan base, passionate. It's really our average football fan drives over an hour to get to the game.
Wow.
We live in a town of 40,000 residents and 40,000 students. Yet we lead. We're one of the top attendance schools in the country for all of our sports. So we're lucky here that we have a lot of folks that have retired back to State College and love to support our sports, especially our women's sports, women's basketball, volleyball, women's soccer, field hockey. They're all really competitive and get great crowds. I think what we pride ourselves on is the experience that we create at our games. There's nothing like coming to a football game at Beaver Stadium. It is an event. It is something that you have circled on your calendar year long. It's an all day deal. We don't have to worry about people with I'm afraid to commit to 3 hours. Like, I was dealing with that in Georgetown all the time. Like, we have a basketball game and the students are telling me like, I don't want to spend 3 hours going to a game. Like, I could be, spending 1 hour watching on TV and then studying or doing something else.
Yeah.
Here our students can't wait to get out into the parking lots and can't wait to get into the stadium. It's just a different atmosphere here, but we've done a good job in creating an environment in all of our games where our teams are competitive. That helps for sure. Mm-hmm. But they're fun to come to. There's good music. There's a ton of things to do for kids to come out and participate in. People come with their friends. They sit next to each other. It's just like it's just a different kind of vibe here. And we do get lucky that there's not a lot of other stuff to do around here. And so really in DC, I would tell people that I would be competing with a farmer's market. Like literally if the game was at Sunday at 1, I would be competing with 20 farmers markets for people's dollars, Here, we're competing against ourselves. There's just, do I go to the soccer game tonight or do I go to the volleyball game tonight? We've created such a fun kind of family environment at our events that people just like to come to them and like to go to it and like to bring their kids to it. And if they're retired, they like to come back and support Penn State and cheer on the student athletes. So yeah, we're not the best people to ask about that, but I did definitely see some of the stuff that Coach Fitzgerald was talking about when I was in DC, because it's a different area. It's a different group of people that you're kind of targeting. But yeah, we don't have to. There's always going to be a little bit of that here, but overall, we've done and hope to continue to do really well with our attendance.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in college, or when you're an undergrad or a grad, and you have plans to go out at night and hang out with friends, you're hanging out with friends. There's usually loud and fun music playing. There's usually some partying going on or games going on, and you can create that same kind of fun atmosphere at an athletics event. And it sounds like you guys were able to do that and create that community as well. I did want to step back and talk about Georgetown and the stuff that you were doing there from a marketing perspective, and how you kind of got on the national radar. I know Darren Ravel probably knows your name because of all the times that he's retweeted some of the promotions that you guys did over the years at Georgetown. So I won't go and do a laundry list of some of all the creative and really well thought out activations and promotions you guys have done, but just tell me how those ideas started to come together and how they both drove obviously social conversation throughout the country, and how they ultimately succeeded or didn't succeed in driving fans and seats.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun at Georgetown. Just kind of thinking out of the box. It really kind of started just randomly. We'd always, and I think all the people in this business do a great job of being creative and coming up with fun themes and fun experiences. I think we had a good situation at Georgetown where there was a media market that was like craving creativity and different experiences. There was a lot of local media in DC that covered Georgetown, and I think we did some kind of things that I just thought were normal marketing initiatives. Like I think one of the first things that we did that got some attention was we did a student for a day deal, which is something that we did at basketball to fill up our student section with normal fans over Christmas break. So something that everybody does.
Yeah.
Like your students are gone. We sell student price tickets or whatever for the general fans. So really everyone does it. We just kind of packaged it differently, and we added like a student section T-shirt, and we required the people to stand up if they were down there, and we gave them like a lanyard and a campus map, and we gave them a little diploma of being like a student of Georgetown basketball after the game. So we kind of had fun with it, and just like normal everyday stuff that we kind of do in this business. And someone like shot me a note and said, "Hey, I saw your promotion in the Washington Post." I was like, well, "What are you talking about?" So I kind of looked it up, and that it was just kind of social media was really getting into all this stuff. There became a bigger focus on creativity, and we were lucky to be in a market where there's a lot of eyes on it. And so we have the Washington Post sports blog right in our backyard, and they covered our stuff. And if the Washington Post puts out something about your promotion, like, it's going to get legs. And so we were kind of able to do some unique things. We took some tried and true promotions and added a little flair to it and got some extra publicity for that. We tried some brand new stuff that did really well. I think one of the ideas that I had was I got from a furniture store. They say the furniture stores always say, if it snows on January 1st, you get it for free. And so we had this big snowstorm coming, and I said, the more it snows, the bigger the ticket discount. Like nothing groundbreaking there. Like I feel like everyone does it, but we were just in this market, and I started to have these, connections and this kind of rapport with these national sports writers that they would, see what we were putting out and run with it. And so like that was on ESPN. Like it was just kind of crazy, and it just kind of spiraled out of control a little bit towards the end there. And we, just everything that we did there seemed like it really, really worked well. And I could say that because the stuff that didn't work well, I didn't really try to push that out as much. But yeah, I mean, we were trying new things. We gave out kale in a women's basketball game. That went viral. Michelle Obama mentioned that giveaway in a speech.
Wow.
We monetized proposing at basketball games. We had a proposal package, and the deal was if the person that you proposed to said no, you got your money back. And so that made like Mike and Mike in the morning, and they were discussing that. We were the first ones to do a Millennial Day and really have fun with it and run with it before everyone started getting offended by that stuff. We retired cargo shorts at a lacrosse game, and Al Roker on the Today Show was like talking about it, and Carson Daly was talking about it. Like it was just kind of wild, and a lot of the stuff just kind of came from my personal experiences in life. Like my dad always wore cargo shorts, and I told him that cargo shorts should be retired, and that came with it. Or I hated kale, and everyone kept talking about kale. So I'm like, well, let's have fun with this. We were able to do some really cool, fun stuff. And now the second part of your question that you asked like 10 minutes ago was, did you see results? And I think definitely on social and with engagement and on media coverage and overall awareness of our events. Some of this stuff game day didn't really move the needle. Some of this stuff was really just stuff that lived on social, and yeah, it was great, and people thought it was funny. Did extra people come out to the game because of it? Maybe not. Did the people who were at the game enjoy it more? I would hope so. But a lot of this stuff is it's tough to really measure unless you do like a specific go to the window and say kale
right.
when you purchase your ticket, so that we directed you to it. So, but yeah, like we were trying to grow our at Georgetown. We were trying to grow our footprint in a huge media market with a ton of pro teams and a ton of other colleges. We were trying to grow our footprint in the space, and I think we did a good job with that.
So you're sitting around brainstorming. Do you almost not reverse engineer is the wrong way to put it, but do you think of what can we do that's going to be fun when it's actually experienced, and also what can we do that's going to drive casual interest and conversation around what we're doing so we can get some of that awareness in the space?
Yeah, so the ideas kind of come up really randomly, whether it's just like a part of an idea, like Millennial Night started as wanting to give out participation trophies, and then that kind of turned into Millennial Night. I think in the beginning when I was there, or even the whole time I was there, we were just trying to create awareness of our events and being creative to do it. So the goal was always to kind of gain attention in the media. That we didn't have to pay for. We did not have a big marketing budget there, so we really had to be creative to get people to think about us. So that was always the goal. I think we would. Sometimes we had some extra tickets to sell. Sometimes we knew that students were gone, so we needed to fill a section. Like I said, we wanted to take advantage of things that were happening in pop culture, and so we kind of put together stuff, but kind of the goal was always to to get more awareness out there in hopes that it would drive more people to say, oh, that sounds like they have fun there. Maybe we should go check out a game at Georgetown instead of going to a play or instead of going out to eat again, you know?
Yeah, and I think what's unique about what you guys did there, and it came through in a lot of the examples that you just spoke of, is, some schools just, they might do some creative giveaways, like, okay, we're going to give everyone, some T-shirt, or give everyone whether bacon at the door. But it sounds like what you guys didn't just stop at it once they came in. There was a whole experience to it. People were standing in the student sections. People did, take a nap on Millennial Night or whatever. There was a retirement to cargo shorts. So it really was more than just a knick-knack. It was a true experience. And that's, the buzzword of the century, so to speak, is experiences and experiential. So my hat's off to you there.
Yeah, exactly. We tried to make it kind of all-encompassing when we had a theme. It's not just, doing a theme because it's, May the 4th and you want to do a Star Wars theme. It was, we dove into it and we made it kind of a, from when you heard about it originally to the messaging that you're getting on social about it, to when you're at the game, what you see, the music you hear, the stuff you see on the court. We tried to make it more than just on Star Wars Day, we try to have fun with it.
And how does it differ now that you're at Penn State, where maybe awareness and coverage is not as difficult to come by, and even attendance is a different picture to look at? How does that affect your guys' mindset and the kind of projects and campaigns and promotions that you all put together at Penn State?
Yeah, I think it's still kind of pushing the envelope a little bit and being creative is definitely helpful in this market too. You're right. Like, our people here are just waiting to write about Penn State stuff. So we have a captive audience here. We have a captive fan base. We say, if you ask Penn State fans to do something, you better be ready for them to show up and do it, because they're awesome. They show up in droves. They do what you ask them to do. So you got to be prepared for that. So we do a lot of creative stuff here, and every once in a while they'll kind of pop up in the national media. But we're not grabbing attention. We're not trying to grab attention here as much as I was doing that at Georgetown. Here we're trying to actually get butts in seats. So it's a little different where we might get more people coming to a game if it's a youth soccer day than if we kind of did something kind of crazy. It's more functional if you just invite a bunch of youth soccer players to come and they wear their jersey, they get a discounted ticket or something like that. Yeah. It really we're not in a place where we have to be super creative, but we still do that. Our staff, my staff here, does a great job in each of their sports to kind of create fun environments, do a lot of theme days, make it unique still, even though we're really the kind of only show in town. We still like to kind of make that experience unique.
So much fun being able to learn from Chris and continuing to follow along with everything he does in the space now, how he truly engages the industry too. It does a great job of bringing us all together to have fun, to learn from each other, and Chris is clearly great at what he does, continuing to help innovate and do more in this industry. So listen to that full episode because you really will enjoy it. Next up on the Best of Digital Social Media Sports podcast, we are still going strong here, as the next guest you're going to hear from is Cassie Epstein. You probably know her. You've probably seen her. She seems to go viral on Twitter every other week. She's super clever, super smart, really gets this space better than really anybody. And we get to talk about her work with Gillette Stadium, what it's like to really represent a venue on social media, and how she goes about engaging such a diverse fan base. Someone that goes to New England Revolution MLS games and New England Patriots games, but also might, she also has fans of Taylor Swift and, and K-pop and country music. And it's super interesting to hear about how she looks at that diverse fan base. We also talk about what it's like to run a sweepstakes and the clever ways and innovative ways to make the most of those, as well as the idea of listening, being proactive and listening during an event, and what it's like to use social media for that customer service aspect. So really interesting stuff just for this little snippet of my conversation with Cassie, and you're going to hear it right now.
Whenever, I'm speaking to people, I tell them, I think for most professional sports teams, they have a fan base that is, people that are interested in that team or that league. So it's whether or not they love the team or they hate the team, they are looking to consume information about that exact team. Mm-hmm. Our fan base is, Patriots football fans, Revolution soccer fans, motorsports fans, Taylor Swift fans, Justin Bieber fans, Kenny Chesney fans, Metallica fans.
They're all the same, right?
Exactly. So it's definitely, depending on who, I'm speaking to, it's a different tone, and you don't interact with, a Patriots fan the same way you would with, an NCAA lacrosse fan or someone who's here for a Kenny Chesney show or for a Revolution soccer match. So I kind of think of myself as like a chameleon, and I'm always kind of changing, reflecting on, what fan base I'm speaking to at any given time.
And if you had to, this is an unfair question probably, so get ready. If you had to, why would someone want to follow the Gillette Stadium accounts? Do they want to have the promise of some cool behind the scenes content? Are they there mostly just to hear first about shows and maybe hear about on sales and pre-sales? Like, what would you say is the objectives of your account beyond the game day or event day customer service?
Yeah, I think there has to be, you have to drive fans to want to follow you. I mean, we are, I'm Gillette Stadium, a building. I'm not representing a team with a personality or a band or one person. It's a building, and you have to find ways that would draw fans in and give them value for following you. So whether that's, behind the scenes content leading up to a Revolution soccer match or a Patriots game day or, a Taylor Swift concert, or whether that's, we do a lot of giveaways. We want to be able to give back to our fans. So, thank you for following us. We're going to, provide all these different extras for you. So it's definitely a combination of things. You obviously don't want to just be marketing to people all the time. People are going to get turned off pretty quickly if you're just trying to yell, buy tickets now to everyone. So it's that kind of finite mix of, behind the scenes content that they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. And then, giveaways, like things added value that we can provide fans that they wouldn't get without following us, and then still being able to promote events that need a little bit of help.
When it comes to content for your account, are you working with the same production department and graphic design or whatever it may be that's working with the Patriots? Or are you on your own? Are you able to use the stadium department? Are you mostly working with assets provided by various promoters and other teams that come into the venue? Or, I guess, what does that content look like for you? Are you responsible for everything yourself almost?
Yeah, so it's a mix, and I hate giving such like kind of mixed answers for everything, but it really is
for sure.
Cross over so many different groups. So we have like a fantastic digital department here at Gillette Stadium. So when we're doing different holiday graphics or different infographics for upcoming events that we have, that's all going through that digital team, and I work closely with them to make sure that we're providing information that our fans need to know before stepping on site here. And then for different events that we bring in with, a different group. So, whether that's a concert or if that's, Monster Jam or Supercross, they're providing a lot of that digital content to us. So it's, it goes back and forth of, they'll provide us content to post, and then, I'll go back to them and say, X, Y, and Z would also be fantastic for this, or have you thought of doing this? Or we wanted to do, these 3 ideas, would those work? And it's this constant conversation of some things they, groups will love and they hadn't thought of. And then other pieces, is nope, they can't do that. There's all these different, rules that they have to follow and abide by, or, there are different groups that they're responding to. So it's definitely a mix of going, there's a lot of stuff that we create internally here. There's a lot of content that just off the cuff I'll get on my phone that we're posting. And then we have, great photographers here on site for all of our events that, I'll pull from them and figure out what we need. But it definitely varies depending on what event we're working on at any given time.
And when you're planning that content out, when you're looking at it, whether it's a content calendar or just thinking in your own mind about kind of a content split, I'm sure it's not easy, but like if you want to get a ton of a lot of engagement, you can post about a Patriots win or a full house for the Patriots. But you obviously want to keep in mind the other events, and then there's some events that may not be as popular to post about, but they're the ones that might need more help to drive more sales. So how do you end up balancing that mix of content to, yes, get your engagement rate and your following up, but also making sure that you're keeping priorities in place that, hey, these events need to be top of mind more because they're hurting for sales.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really is one of the struggles to go through, and things just to keep in mind of, there's a lot going on at this building at any given time and events that we're promoting, and it's important to, keep those all balanced. And, we certainly want to promote, the fantastic things that are going on here, but also be mindful of, every other piece that's here. So, I think also with having 2 professional sports teams in one building, it's really important to make sure I'm balancing those pieces out. So if, one of our teams just had a loss, I'm not pushing out something really bright and cheery from the other team, or, vice versa. So it's really important to keep in mind of knowing exactly kind of where all the entities are standing at any given time. So you're not pushing out information that would feel really distasteful for another part of your fan base. Mm-hmm. And then there is, for concert build-out calendars, like I'll put together, my full calendar of what ideally I would be posting, what content I would be receiving. But a lot of the times, with the tour that's coming through, it's a national tour that I don't get to dictate timing on. And there's a lot of times, we'll have a tour that comes to us and say, this is when we're announcing it, this is when we want to post it, this is the content that you're going to push out. And we can push back and say, this isn't ideal for our timing because of, playoffs or because of this or because of, myriad of reasons. But sometimes they'll be able to change it. Other times, like it's part of a national announcement, we can't tweak those timelines or that content. So a lot of the time, I can certainly be aware of all the different groups here and tweak timings based on that. And then some of the time I can't. And because it's a different group that's coming into our building and I don't own their content, it has to follow their timeline. So it's a mix of both.
No, it certainly makes sense. And I know, given your role and the fact that, a couple of very big teams play there and a lot of events come through there, that the fact that it's a mix of things is going to be a common answer, but that's the nature of your job. So I'm completely on board with that.
Exactly.
You talked about giveaways earlier, and I know, when I worked for a venue for social, like when we got tickets to give away, I mean, yeah, we got like the Disney on Ice ones and stuff that maybe weren't quite as attractive for fans, but when we got something that had, was from a big show, it was like, oh crap, we got some tickets. The promoter gave us some tickets to give away. We're gonna blow this out. And so like it came down to, okay, we have a prize that we know people want. How can we maximize this? Whether that's getting people to go to a landing page, sign for a sweepstakes, or maybe it's a UGC contest, or which platform is best on. So I guess I would love to hear from you on what are when you get a prize that people will want. Is it pretty traditional? We're just going to get your name and email and through a form stack, or are you oftentimes looking for creative ways or ways to move the needle as much as possible to maximize the output or effect of a sweepstakes?
Yeah, so there's a lot that I'll do just based right on social pages that don't include the information gathering. But then when we can't set up one of those sweepstakes on the Gillette Stadium website to be acquiring email addresses and that kind of content is obviously so important and it's just such a benefit to us. I think one of my favorite types of giveaways is I'm not gathering the consumer information, but like when we have a concert that's announced immediately, if we have already carved out tickets for that show that we're able to give out, once it's the event is announced, then I'll immediately do like a retweet to enter, just so that our fans then become part of our marketing team, and there by retweeting and entering to win tickets, they're then disseminating our information out to their followers, and it gives our announcement that much more of a boost than just coming from at Gillette Stadium. It then moves a lot further because everyone's retweeting it in hopes to then win a different prize. So those work out really well for us because once you announce an event, like you really want that to be the punch. Like you want to get it as far as you can, as wide as you can. And by doing those kind of simple retweet to enter, like, I'm not getting obviously the consumer information, but I am making sure that announcement is getting as far and wide as possible, which is really helpful for us.
Is that the best time that you found is to maximize the announcement as opposed to like waiting closer to the show or when someone might be on the fence a little more?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of our shows, it obviously varies depending on how many, if any, tickets we're able to get, for these promotional methods. For and some. I'm sorry.
And also when you get those, sometimes you get them before the announcement, sometimes you get them, long after, I guess, as well.
Exactly. So there's different timings that you're getting them, and then, I like to do kind of that front push of once the thing's announced, and then we'll maybe do another one right like the day before tickets go on sale. So it helps remind fans, like if you didn't win this is coming tomorrow. Tickets go on sale 10 a.m. Here's how you order tickets. So you're getting it on everyone's feed, fresh in their minds right before tickets go on sale. And then it's helpful again before the show is here, a couple weeks before or a month before, especially if it's a sold out show. That's when you can really also get a lot of interest in that giveaway because they won't be able to get tickets anywhere else. And so, for the sweepstakes where we're gathering information and the data from fans, that's really, really helpful for us, especially for an event that you wouldn't be able to buy online.
Yeah, and one more thing on the sweepstakes. I think there's, people see the sweepstakes happening all the time, but I don't think the average fan or average consumer realizes how strategic they can be and how effective they can be. And you see these days, some are very much simpler, like, retweet this post or whatever it may be. Others I'm starting to see are a lot more complex. It's like, follow this account, retweet this post, and reply with someone you take with you, use this hashtag, and it's like, whoa, you lost me at step 3. It's like, sub 3A or whatever. There's so many different steps.
Yeah.
So, like, are there?
Yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible. Like, the fewer the steps is just ideal for us. We had done a giveaway. I always tell people, like, maybe 8 years ago at this point, it was just when these accounts were really gaining steam, and we had done a giveaway for one of our concerts that was like, upload a video of you, singing along to one of the artist's songs to enter to win tickets, and we got like 4 entries, and that was a really good lesson for us of like, don't make it too complicated. Fans don't want to like leave the website to go somewhere else to upload something. Like, as easy as possible, so it doesn't take any time to think about it, is just that it's been really helpful for us to spread further.
Have you had to school yourself at all, like working with the team's maybe in-house counsel on how to conduct a sweepstakes, the difference between a contest and a sweepstakes? Are there certain sweepstakes that you might be a little more cognizant of making sure that there are terms and conditions that are spelled out versus others that you can be a little more willy-nilly with? So contest versus sweepstakes, and also just when you have to have a terms and conditions type stuff.
Yeah, so sweepstakes, obviously, when you're just picking a random winner, are a lot easier for us, and there's kind of like built-in legal language that I can, tweak for each one and then be able to push that out. Anytime it's like a contest and you're judging something, or that's a little bit more of a deep dive, I'm always then making sure I'm in touch with our legal team, before something goes out, to make sure we're following all the correct protocol, all the words are right, everything. That's beyond me, Cassie Epstein. That's not my, area of expertise. So sweepstakes are definitely like my bread and butter, a lot easier just to kind of put together on a whim. You can kind of get those out quickly if something pops up. The contests are definitely where I'm in very close contact with our legal team here to make sure that everything is buttoned up, everything looks great, everything is approved on their end before anything goes out public.
And I think just for if there's a casual listener that may not know, and you did a good job spelling it out there, contest, there's something that you have to do, or there's some way that someone's being judged to deserve to win, whereas sweepstakes is completely random draw. So that's kind of where the difference there is, and there's different legal terms and legalese that apply to both. So in case someone isn't as schooled as Cassie is, you get to know the difference between a contest and a sweepstakes pretty quickly working in this space, that's for sure.
Yeah.
A few minutes left here with Cassie Epstein. She is social media manager and event coordinator for Gillette Stadium. I want to hear about kind of the event day and game day a little bit, and you talked about the service aspect of it and doing all that proactive listening. Is there a secret not secret sauce, but is there a tool that you guys use to do that proactive listening on an event day or on a game day, or is it just you really having your tweet deck open and making sure you're following the right keywords and hashtags?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that has in recent years become a lot more important to the way that our channels are run, and I think we've realized that it's become a fantastic platform for customer service, and it's so great that our fans know to come to us with issues or positive feedback, negative feedback, anything that they have. But then with that, obviously now it's become a bigger piece that we need to be able to be prepared for. So it used to just be me running around an event with my phone in my hand, and when I'm checking Twitter, being able to figure out on the fly if this is something that could help, sending it down to our ops team or security to be able to resolve. But I think now, and we're kind of in the process of this, of figuring out, does that mean there's literally one person who's at their desk the whole time throughout an event just manning these feeds? Is it become that much of data coming in, or is it still able to be me and my the employees that I work with, who we all have our phones on us, and we can all kind of be able to pick up on things as they're coming through. So I think right now, the other, my coworkers in my department, really help out with that, like on an event day if they see something pop up. But I do think in the future it's probably going to move to a more, whether it's in our department or, someone else that's been hired to just be able to sit in front of all of those social platforms and be able to take in all the feedback that's coming in, and then be able to, send, feedback about, a broken seat down to our ops group, or be able to just funnel everything through the correct departments in real time so that problems are solved really, really quickly is really great. So I think we're moving kind of towards that, just because customer service has become such a massive part of it that I don't think I could have foreseen happening, but it's great that it is, because we want to solve problems if they arise.
And at this point, though, are you, if you see someone comment about where this bathroom is a mess, or someone puked here, or whatever, I mean, I don't want to go into all the bad stuff. There's good stuff too. Are you then like, having to text or walkie-talkie or email someone that is on the ops side, and is that kind of how it runs up the food chain? It may not be as quick in real time as you guys are heading toward, but is that how it's kind of worked for the time being?
Yeah, exactly. And knock on wood, we don't get a ton of, drastic issues on an event day, but when I do see something come across, or it's, someone that's like, I'm vegetarian, where can I find a vegan burger? And we can respond back to them really quickly with information on what concession stands to go to and where they're located. Or, if there is like an operations issue, I can then, funnel it through our internal system to make sure that our ops staff knows that this is the issue, this is the seat location, this is when it was logged in, and then they can really dispatch someone in real time to address that. And we've had really great results. There's people who have, tweeted us really frustrated, and rightly so, that if they've had, an issue with their seat or, something along those lines, and then, we'll see a tweet 10 minutes later that says, oh my gosh, someone just came, they fixed it, that was incredible, like, thanks so much. And it's really great to be able to take someone's experience, if it's trending downward, and really turn it around and make sure that when they leave our property, they had a really great experience with us.
And that means that much more. When it's one thing to have someone walk away with a bad experience, but you'd rather have someone have a bad experience that you guys make into an exceptional one than someone just leave with it was so or an average experience, because you guys can really turn that person into an advocate then.
Exactly.
And especially as we get now into these modern times, for me to speak on the pedestal here, with mobile ticketing, with mobile ordering, maybe with upgrading your seats and having all these different things at your fingertips that you can do, maybe interacting with a bot, or as you start to internalize a lot of what you see on a given event day, whether it's actually reporting on here's some of the things that I saw coming on the feeds, or just kind of in your own mind, keeping in mind what people are asking about or even just talking about, are these things that you're able to then communicate with Gillette Stadium, and maybe, hey, we need to make sure that it's easy to find a place to get a vegan hot dog. So if you open the app, we can say, vegan food options, click here. Or, hey, the people are having trouble with their mobile ticketing. They can't find their barcode when they're trying to. I guess I'm trying to get at is, as you learn about what the pain points are, what the interest points are from all this fan chatter, how does that get funneled back into the product teams, the marketing teams, the service teams, and affect things like the Gillette Stadium app, the pre-event emails, and even the website?
Oh, sure. So we have debrief meetings after every single one of our events, and that's a really great channel to be able to give feedback from what we've been receiving customer service and on social media. And if there's trending pieces that people are hearing multiple times over and over, it's clear that there's something that we're missing here, or that fans aren't being able to see as clearly as we want them to see. So after we have an event, if there's a notable uptick in a certain type of feedback, I'll make sure that I distribute that out to the appropriate parties, and then when we have those debrief meetings, then bringing it up again to ensure that in the future we help that going forward. I think for me, a lot of it too is a lot of pre-event listening, and I really try and watch what people are saying before coming to an event, so we can kind of get ahead of it. So whether it's clear bag policy information, or if fans can bring in signs for concerts, it's all the fans are different, and so sometimes we'll have shows where people will come in with really elaborate costumes and signs, and they've spent a lot of time on these things, and so want to make sure that we're being really proactive with disseminating that information out about what's allowed, what's not allowed. Can you bring lights on a sign? Can you not? And so I'd much rather hear all that conversation and then be able to send out the information before the fan arrives here on event day, rather than them standing in line, getting to the gate, and then realizing they can't enter with X, Y, and Z. So it's a lot of listening to the fans and seeing what they're saying in the conversations, and making sure that then if I see something that's being talked about over and over, or questions and fans are confused, and that's something that we clearly need to be disseminating out better, and making it clearer, and putting that in our infographics on the website, and hopefully we can help a lot of those before the fans even get on site.
Just awesome being able to learn from Cassie and just be able to spend some time with her. She is a delight, and I really recommend listening to that full episode, because she is full of great information and stories as well. Speaking of great stories, next up on the Best of Digital Social Media Sports podcast, one of my favorite people in the space to talk to, someone I consider a good friend that I've really grown up in the space with. You're going to hear from Dan Maraza, just again, one of the best known people in the space. Everywhere he goes, he has a tangible effect on, and just one of the best funny people in the space too, known for his dad jokes, known for his personality, being able to invigorate a brand. And he brought that energy to the Vegas Golden Knights. Back when we spoke on the podcast, he was with the Vegas Golden Knights NHL team, helping them grow out of nothing as they had their first year, and he was there on the digital and social side. So you're going to hear a lot about what it was like to create that voice and that tone that the Vegas Golden Knights became so well known for, that continues on today as he established that brand. Also, we hear about appreciating the depth of engagement, how it's not just about going after that follower count, but what do you do with those followers, and how do you really get them to buy into what you're selling when it comes to a team and a brand. So listen up to this part of my conversation with Dan Maraza, then with the Vegas Golden Knights, now with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You're going to learn a ton from Dan, and you're going to want to listen to this full episode for sure.
Also incredibly important for Las Vegas, as it's 200 by 85 ice sheets, and especially in a market where an NHL team hasn't existed in the past, building the sport is important. So communicating what programs are going to be at the facility and how the facility's going and when it's going to be ready. A lot of things were like that. I would say the pivot point, a big pivot point for us, was in November when I got to delete the Vegas' hockey icon when we were officially born as the Vegas Golden Knights, to the point that, which not many people have been in those shoes, where it's incredibly difficult to try to secure a Twitter handle when there's rumors out there, and to get the handle you want, but not leak the name. So working through that, and then launching it in live time, where the Knights team was announced at an event outside of our arena, the Twitter handle, along with the website, and everything was ready to flip over immediately. And then from there, since we knew what we were. We were the Golden Knights. We actually had colors. We had a logo. We didn't have a player yet, but we kind of knew what we were. And right around Christmas time last year, I would say we started to kind of find what we wanted to be. I would say when the next step on that, and this is the tweet that I'll always look at, is the tweet that really launched the voice of the Vegas Golden Knights, was last March we signed Lee Duke, free agent from the Brandon Wheat King from the Western Hockey League, to a contract. He's the first player on the team yesterday. And for the first 2 months, he's the only player that we had under contract. So we sent out a tweet at the end of a couple weeks into that, where it was traditional NHL pre-game soccer, guys kicking the balls around, and it was really Duke kicking the ball to nobody. And it kicked the ball, went down the hall, and we captioned it. We captioned it, all the Golden Knights gathered for the game of soccer. And wait, there was only one of them. And that was something that took off tremendously. Because these guys from Vegas, that's pretty fun. That was pretty tongue-in-cheek. That was pretty self-deprecating. And based on that tone, I always look at that tweet as the one that kicked us into high gear and really helped us find what we were. And then other examples of those would come up over the next few months. And then as we got the rest of our players at the expansion draft in June, we had a few campaigns built around the expansion draft that took that voice to a new level. And I would say it ended up being a 12-month process, I would say, from June of 2016 to June of 2017 to evolve a voice and a brand voice from scratch to be what it's going to be when we begin playing games, regular season, in the next few weeks.
And was it all did that Reed Duke tweet, did you kind of know, okay, this is who we're going to be. We're going to be this a little bit irreverent, a little bit self-deprecating, a little bit more fun, or did it kind of just take off from there and say, oh wow, we tried this and it took off. Let's continue it, and let's continue this as we trek on to becoming a true team with a whole roster and a schedule and all that. So did it take off from there very intentionally, or did it almost not catch you off guard, but just almost like a pleasant surprise and say, okay, this is going to work. The fans like it. Let's run with it.
I want to take full credit for this, but I don't know if we deserve full credit for this. We knew we wanted to be fun, because the way we look at it is it's very important that if we're the first major league sports franchise for the city, that we have a voice that matches the people that are the fans that live in the city. And Las Vegas is not a boring place. It's not a dull place. If you're going to be a hockey team in Las Vegas, you have to be fun. And that was first and foremost. However, the way the Duke tweet came together, the solo soccer game, as we would call it, is we have a TV show, a documentary being made about our team called Behind the Vegas Ice an episode premieres every month, and they were actually filming in Brandon, Manitoba, to go to League Duke's practice, for the Western Hockey League playoffs. And we were up there filming a show, and we were talking to the Brandon Wheat King staff. We were just kind of talking about, wow, think of it, this is the only player on an entire NHL team. And I think it was Taylor's suggestion. It would be pretty funny if he played soccer by himself. Mm-hmm. Not how it was going to look or anything like that, but just the thought that he should play soccer by himself. And we kind of said, yeah, let's see how it looks. I think it sounded like it could be a fun idea, but until you actually shoot it and see it, you're not really sure. And then once the video was made, which was made on a cell phone video, for all things, it was something that we saw, and right away, I think we knew it was going to be good. I don't think there was a metric for how good it was actually going to be, but we sent it out, and it got about 5,500 retweets, and it was, at the time, it was 3 times more retweets than we had on anything of any kind in the first 8 months, and it's something that even yesterday, we had a full prospect team doing a soccer game with 20 people, including Lee Duke. And it ended up being a tweet. Lee Duke finally is to play soccer with. And a lot of people who followed us all along, they liked it. And the reason they liked it was because I think one of the attractions that a lot of fans have to this is with another sports franchise, whether it be the Montreal Canadiens or the Chicago Blackhawks that have so much tradition, those people who are alive today were not there at the beginning. And with us, all these sports are things that we get to experience in lifetime. And they can say, man, just in front of my own eyes on Twitter, I've been able to see this team grow up from having no name to a name to one player to many players to now they're playing soccer together. And then from there, the second tweet that I would say kicked it into full gear was the day that Joe Louis Arena closed.
Yeah.
Obviously, it had nothing to do with the Golden Knights. I don't even know what made me think of this. I think I was in awe of some of the stats that the Wings had in that building. It's so successful. They've won so many championships. Mm-hmm. That's why they made the playoffs for 25, 26 consecutive years. And I think I just said to myself, for fun, did anybody actually have a winning record against them now? So I looked, and I said, I bet that that every team had a losing record. Unfortunately, that was not true. The Florida Panthers had a winning record at Joe Louis Arena, which was not what I expected to find. So I said, I can't make my joke anymore that we're the only team to not have a losing record because the Florida Panthers won. And then I said, wait, we're the only Western Conference team. Good enough. And the way it ended up working out was it was a Sunday afternoon. The game was at 2 o'clock. It was the Devils against the Detroit Red Wings. And a minute into the game, especially as all the farewell to the Joe hashtags have been popular over the previous few weeks. Yeah. We tweeted, we are proud to be the only Western Conference team to finish without a losing record at Joe Louis Arena. Hashtag farewell to the Joe. And this thing took off like a bomb. The way I say it was, I said it from my couch in suburban Las Vegas on a Sunday afternoon sitting under a blanket because it's Sunday afternoon and that's what you do on Sunday afternoons. And 15 minutes later, my tweet was being shown on my TV in front of me on the NHL Network.
Oh, that's awesome.
Within 15 minutes. And I'm sitting like, wait, I'm drinking chocolate milk right now. I haven't changed the channel. I don't even know where the controls are. And this just popped up. Something I set from my phone just popped up on TV. And then that took off even further with Steve Levy from ESPN. He saw it. And Steve Levy ended up incorporating it into his broadcast that evening on ESPN. And that was something, once that got such TV attention, that took off tremendously. And I would say by that point was when I, as somebody operating the handle, started to get a feel for the voice. Yeah. Sometimes I compare it could be like acting sometimes. And what I mean by that is just because one of my favorite actors of all time passed away this afternoon, Frank Vincent, super well known from The Sopranos and Goodfellas and many others, is that if you saw him in The Sopranos at the beginning, he was very different from how he was at the end. And the reason was he learned what that pose was going to be. And I think Tony Soprano is the same way on that show. And I think The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is another show that a lot of people will be familiar with. And if you see Uncle Phil in season 1, and you see Uncle Phil in season it's the dialect of how he communicates is different because he just got used to it and he knew what it was going to be. So once the Joe Lewis tweet was sent out, I think I got a feel for myself that, there's some of these things that are being sent out that are very similar to my sense of humor, but not everything that I think is funny also fits our brand. And the cohesion of the two, I think, came together right around that time. And starting in mid-April is when I feel like we've had a pretty good, consistent rate of constant things like along those similar lines as Joe Lewis and a solo soccer game.
A couple questions off that. I guess first is you're sitting on the couch, you had the thought for this tweet, and I think everyone that starts in a social media role, it's a process. You get that trust to push the buttons without having any oversight. And so was there a point where you had a little bit of a longer leash, and did you earn it just about earning the trust? And say, okay, Dan knows to be responsible. He's not going to tweet anything that's going to be untoward. Or I guess when you sent that farewell to the Joe tweet, you were comfortable doing so, obviously, and it wasn't not in poor taste or anything like that. So it wasn't anything to worry about. But there's still even just being able to put something out there without any sign, blessing, I guess, so to speak. So was that an element that you had to get early on?
Is actually with the Joe Lewis tweet in particular, this is what I knew was going to be successful. That I wanted to call the Elias Bluesfield to check to make sure my stat was correct. But that's the last thing you need is to come up with a funny tweet.
Right.
You send it out, and then the stat is wrong. And when I said it on the phone, what it was about, the representative from the Elias Bluesfield was laughing through the phone. And that was when I knew this has potential. So in that case, I think that particular tweet was probably about 3 or 4 days in advance, where it was something that came up. One of the things that I think is always important, that even though when you're the person pressing the buttons, a lot of times you get the credit and the blame when things go well or badly. You're that person, is that it is a team effort. That's how it is in Vegas, too. Even if I'm the one pressing the buttons on these tweets, is that I don't go into this solo. I think one of the things that is interesting about our team compared to some other NHL teams is our social media is within our communications department, which is actually public relations, communications, and content, where some other clubs put it in marketing. So what that's allowed us to do is it's allowed us to get on the same page as hockey operations, because PR staffs and communication staff are an extension of hockey ops. They work the closest with the team, way more so than than other departments would. So for me, I think the way I've looked at it going in is it's always easier to ask. It's always easier to be told, stop asking, than to be told, why didn't you ask?
Right.
So I still take that approach sometimes, because this isn't the Dan show. This is the Golden Knights show.
No doubt.
And I think that's important to remember. So for me, I would say the way that we apply it today, and I would say as we get more in sync, as we work together, you get more familiarity with each other and what works and what doesn't work. But I would say even still, if I'm going to tweet something where it's a video, and it's just a straight video, it's a talking head type of a video, or a highlight video, I'm just tweeting it, and that's it. If it's something such as some of the mix-ups we've had, I say that with a full smile on my face over the last few weeks, those are things that, as a social media person, I recognize that if you don't strike the right tone on this, it's something that has the ability to go badly. And you don't want to be in a position where, whether it's the San Jose Sharks or the Los Angeles Kings, that we're the Golden Knights and we're sending out a hostile tweet to a team.
Right.
And I'm doing it on my own without discussing with anybody else, and it doesn't fit the tone of the team. So the way I look at it is I think I have a pretty strong compass on what is something that should be discussed and what is something that should not be discussed. I think the way I look at it is, when in doubt, discuss it. I think sometimes maybe those things that, not to say that we agree on every single thing, but we talk about it as a team, and I think that's what it is. It's not about agreeing on everything, it's about discussing it together.
Totally.
And I think the way I've looked at it is that I think I've come up with some tweets that maybe would have been good, but we're not big into taking risks. Because the way we look at it is, is that if we are not sure that we're very confident that this tweet is going to work, if there's a chance in it, we're not doing that, because one tweet could come to define you, and you don't want to be defined for something that was not something you wanted to be represented with.
Totally.
So for me, the cohesion, I mean, especially the head of public relations and I, for the first 6 months that we worked together, sat in seats that were about 6 feet apart from each other. So it was legitimately, we would have these ideas, just start talking about them. And when you do that, that's when you get something that is, you get an organizational consensus. But yes, there's certainly a lot of growth that I've been given here that, just based on the tone that we've taken in a lot of cases, is, I would say, I've been given significantly more rope than some other team brands are around professional sports. But it's still something that we're looking at it is, maybe we go further, maybe we tweak a little bit, but we're always tweaking it, but we're always doing it together. And that's the thing that's important, is that it's always doing it together, because that's how you maintain that cohesion. Also to the point of, once the season starts, you want to do things with players, and the only way you have the access to do things with players is if you work well with players and hockey operations. So it's even incorporating hockey operations.
That trust.
Sometimes people look at it as the social media department, but no, it's just an extension of the hockey team, and we incorporate as many people as we possibly can who do this.
That's great. And as you mentioned, you kind of develop an intuition for it, and with everyone's on the same page, it makes it easier. And so, a few more minutes left here with Dan Marazza, digital and social media manager for the Vegas Golden Knights. I did want to touch on, until yesterday, you had a team, at least for a couple months now. You didn't have a game at all until yesterday, and so you spent. I think everyone has an off season, but not everyone has 12 months of off season to have to come up with content. And so I think you found ways to insert the Golden Knights, and also too, though, I think there's a whole other element of, for 12 months, you didn't have to worry about ticket sales, about sponsor activations. And there's a little bit of that. You have the season ticket holder deposits. You have probably flex packs and suites go on sale. But what were the goals of the last 12 months? Was it really just get as much pub out there as we can about ourselves. Let's highlight the milestone events when we get Gerard Gallant as a coach, when we get our first players in the expansion draft. So take me through what really the objectives were and how that played into what you guys were planning each day.
So I think for me, the objective, I started off with what the objective was not. But one thing I did not have was a number of followers that I thought we should have. Mm-hmm. Personally, I'm of the belief that that's not a metric that is the most valuable. It can be valuable, but it's not necessarily the defining one, especially for us. There's no expansion team that ever happened, so there's nobody we can compare ourselves to. There's never been a major league team in Las Vegas, so there's nobody we can compare ourselves to. We can't really compare ourselves to other NHL teams because the Boston Bruins have been around for 90 years, and we've been around for 8 months. And they have generations of supporters that have grown up with the team through thick and thin, that they support the team. And they've been on Twitter for 9 years, and we've been on for 8 months. So we didn't want to look at it, I didn't want to look at it, as comparing ourselves to anybody that way, because there's no company quite in the same situation as us. So to me, it would have been comparing apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. I think two objectives that I have gone with, and I still go with these objectives, is when I go on Twitter, the metric that I measure, it's not how many followers we get, it's not how much web traffic we drive, it's not how many likes we get, retweets we get, even though I would say out of all of those, retweets is the one that I enjoy the most, because I believe it helps get the message out the best. But the metric that I value is, am I making fans? It's when you peel back all the other stuff, you would say, we want to get web traffic. Well, what's the purpose of web traffic? Because people will get to know more about our team. Well, if people get to know more about our team, why do they need to know more about our team? So they become fans. The same thing with likes and retweets. Yeah. Why do we want more followers? So more people can be fans of our team. So the core of it is to make fans. And that's something that I still operate with. And I think that a lot of my do fantastic jobs in their respective leagues. The Chicago Cubs and the Colorado Rockies baseball teams. I think both of them do fantastic jobs. And I think one of the reasons for it is as an East Coast guy, I didn't grow up in Chicago. I didn't grow up in Denver. Those were not my teams. However, sometimes when I tweet and mention them in my personal account, which is not very often, but it's sometimes, I would notice they would reply to me.
Yeah.
So they would like my tweet. And I do this for a living, and I think that's cool. Imagine if I was 15-year-old Dan sitting in New Jersey and the New Jersey Devils were talking to me directly as a person. The bond that builds is tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the philosophies that I've gone with, which I think is one of the things that I'm most proud of that we've been able to accomplish, is that my general standard is, unless the tweet is indecent, I try to give a reply to the best of my ability. Sometimes when you have big news coming out and you have so many mentions, it's not sometimes feasible to do so, but you do the best you can. And the reason for that is, the way I look at it is, I'm a fan of a team, and I do have some favorite teams that I follow them, but I don't engage with the posts because they don't respond to me.
Right.
I think, why am I gonna bother replying to this tweet as a 30-year-old man replying to the team when they don't even acknowledge me? Like, what's the point? So for me, I didn't want to be that. I don't want the Golden Knights to be that. We have to be super inclusive, especially for some who never experienced hockey before. So one of the big posts of the philosophy has been be social. And sometimes the expression that I use is, it's social media. It's not anti-social media. So you can't be antisocial. You have to be social with people. And that means talking to people. So, and that's talking to people, not necessarily about trying to sell something or to try to promote a certain initiative. It's just talking to them. It's, if somebody tweets, like, good, how about you? And position connects people. And I think not only do you connect with some of the fans individually that you interact with, but other fans see that too, and you become, as a brand, more relatable, and you build goodwill. So that has been a significant part of things. I would say from a bigger picture, the goal that I was going into it was that by the time that we're playing hockey, I hope people know what our voice is. Mm-hmm. Because it can take a long time to build a voice. And to me, I think that if we were able to have a voice in place as a team, that once we start playing games, we become relatable to our fans because they've followed us from the beginning. There's a big sentiment of that, of people who followed us from the beginning. Even fans of other teams in other cities that just gave up the team that was their favorite team because they could actually say they like this team from the beginning. And we want people to be on that journey with us through business milestones, hockey milestones, moves, and even some disappointments because nobody goes 82-0, is that we want to be on that journey together, and we wanted to do it in a way that was different than any other team in the league. And to get a voice that was distinct, I don't think there was an expectation of how long it was going to take because it's not easy to do. And it's not easy to do. I would say the things that I'm most proud of is that we continue to engage with people. I would say I probably reply to over 100 fans a day directly on Twitter, which is quite a bit.
Wow. And
the fact that, it's quite a bit. I'll be on the line at CBS and make the lines more tolerable because I'll send out tweets online at CBS. And the best thing is things to be known. And as of now, only about 2.5 weeks, I believe, the most regular season game. I do have a little bit of a feel that fans start to associate the Golden Knights with fun and with that inclusiveness. And I hope more people find out about that moving forward, but among the people that do follow us, I believe we have that. So I do feel like, even though we were still 31st place in followers by quite a bit in amount, I feel that we've accomplished a lot of our objectives by just having people know who we are and know what we're about, and by being inclusive.
So much fun being able to learn from Dan. Every time that we talk, I feel like I come away invigorated and energized and feeling good about this industry and what we can do with it. And it's so much fun being able to learn from Dan, being able to keep in touch with him, and it always puts a smile on my face. And I highly recommend listening to that full episode because you will enjoy every minute of it. Last up, we have reached the end. We have one more guest on the Best of Digital Social Media Sports podcast. To finish us off, hear a little bit of my conversation with Chris Gehring. Back when we spoke, he was with the Washington Wizards, part of the Monumental Sports Entertainment family that owns the Wizards, Mystics, the Verizon One Center back then, as well as the Washington Capitals NHL team. Chris is primarily focused on the Wizards. Now he's doing cool stuff with Red Peg Marketing, an agency. But you're going to really like this part of the conversation with Chris. We talk about what it's like to approach social media when the team is going through its ups and downs. And the Wizards have had their down seasons for sure under when Chris was there. And so you hear about what it's like to be in that situation as a team has new coaches, has a new GM, what it's like to maintain that brand but also evolve it with the new leadership coming in. We also hear a little bit about what it's like to think more globally, especially in the NBA, as the Wizards had Rui Hachimura get drafted, and all of a sudden they really picked up their Japanese social media coverage. Just really interesting stuff we're hearing from Chris, and you're going to enjoy hearing this little snippet of my conversation with Chris Gehring, then with the Wizards, now with Red Peg Marketing. So listen up.
I think the biggest thing for us that we've tried to focus on lately is really just finding ways to raise the quality of everything we do. Whether that means improving like our photography and how we edit graphics, how we edit photos that go on social media, how we plan out production pieces. Instead of just having some pictures, some videos of guys shooting around after practice, using the access that we're lucky to have with our productions team and kind of put together like a 30-second hype reel of just a practice, guys going hard, playing hard, growing. And, the thing about our team now is that's a big part of it. We have a leader in Bradley Beal who's 100% always focused on growth. And we've got a bunch of young guys that really look up to him in that sense. Thomas Bryant and Troy Brown Jr. were two guys last year who really Bradley Beal took under his wing. And so emphasizing that, talking to those guys about it when they mention things about how Brad's been a leader to them, been a mentor to them, creating content around that and really emphasizing the fact that, our hashtag was DC Family, and we're rolling with some new stuff this season, but that really was born out of simply that every time the Wizards break the huddle, they break it with family, usually family on three. And that was something that we kind of took and ran with. And last year it was really a big part of it. And it'll continue this year. I mean, those guys are still young, and that's still kind of the identity of our team, that they're growing and building. And so us kind of, amplifying that and amplifying all the good stuff that comes along with that, guys making breakthroughs and having career highs for the first time, those things I expect will happen again. Thomas Bryant, Troy Brown, they'll take bigger jumps and we'll get to celebrate that. So just finding those moments where, guys are growing, it's exciting, their teammates are excited about them. Bradley Beal gets a ton of credit for both things. I know that when Thomas Bryant really flew onto the scene last year, there was nobody that was more proud of him, that was happier to talk about it than Bradley Beal. And that's the kind of stuff that we really like to focus on, because it's really the best part of this team.
You gotta love that. I mean, it always warms my heart when you can see the fans on the social media team that that you're on, and the team on the court, all rallying around a common message, speaking the same language, and having that family just penetrate across all of everyone that cares about the Wizards is so powerful and so cool to hear how you guys have helped translate it for the fans on social media. That's what your job is to help the fans emotionally connect with the players, and you're doing it. So my hat's off to you, of course. How does the up and downs of the seasons, I guess, have to affect the way you guys go about your storytelling? I mean, when the team's record isn't as good, are you then focusing on some of the standout, breakout individual performances, and how does it change when the team is in a playoff push? I guess does the record of the team, performance of the individual players, come into your day-to-day content strategy and week-to-week content strategy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's different. Last year, for example, obviously we didn't make the playoffs and we struggled a little bit. But the 2 years prior to that, we were a playoff team, and so it is different. When you're ramping up for a playoff push, it's all about being on the grind and focusing on the team really locking in and getting fine-tuned for the playoffs and building a lot of hype. And last season, the biggest accomplishments were For example, Bradley Beal being an all-star again. He won a season-long award for his community work. And so we put a ton of work into telling that story and really amplifying that night for him at the NBA Awards. Thomas Bryant, like I mentioned. So those kinds of storylines it certainly changes the focus, no question. But it's always about obviously taking the pulse of the fan base and of the team, but adjusting accordingly. When we went to Game 7 against the Celtics, it was all about, this is the moment. This is it's the hyped up moment. It's all the behind the scenes video content. It's all of the it's just all of the hype. And now it's all about kind of building that long story of this team coming together. The young guys growing up. Rui Hachimura will be a big part of that this year, and kind of finding along the way as those stories kind of come to mind how we can best amplify them. And again, that goes back to working with our PR team, and they're around the team a lot as well, and know a lot about our guys, interact with them a lot. And so when things come up that we can celebrate and make some really cool behind the scenes content and make that emotional connection and give fans a view into our guys, then we're always there to take that lead.
No, it's super interesting to sort of hear that insight, and I think as you mentioned, that connection, that relationship with PR is so important. So that if the team is going through some struggles, you guys have that relationship built in. You have that communication happening already. So if you need to reframe a story or not shoot with this guy or do this sketch or whatever it may be on a given day, you guys can all be on the same page and you know what you're each trying to accomplish. And sometimes the social and PR folks are not adversarial, but it's a little bit of like, give and take, as opposed to just sort of, all shooting for the same objective. And so it sounds like the Wizards have their stuff figured out there, and you've been there for a while now, so you know the place. I do want to tap into that experience there, and you said that it's still a small team, even as it was when you first began, and yet we have a lot more demands these days. It seems like there's so much short form content you're expected to do. Everyone expects you to have a GIF for every player, for every situation in the game. You have Instagram stories you got to worry about. Maybe some Snapchat. TikTok is obviously the one that people will be looking at this season as the new one to jump on. So tell me how. I always tend to ask these line of questioning because I'm interested in, especially when you guys haven't really grown your staff that much. How do you guys go about choosing how to spend your time? How to have someone be able to scale content across channels? And what's that strategy and allocation of resources and time and effort look like?
Yeah, so for us, it's all about. So we don't have at Monumental Sports Entertainment, who owns the Caps, the Wizards, the Mystics, Go-Go, and so on. We have a huge productions team that serves all the teams, and some people obviously that work specifically with the Wizards. Yeah. And then on like the graphic production side, same thing. There's a big creative department that serves all the teams, with some people kind of focusing on the Wizards as well. And so while we only have 4 people dedicated to the Wizards at all times for like digital media, we do lean on a lot of the resources in our company and their creativity and working with them. So we have a camera on the road with us at all times, if not more, and somebody going from social as well. So I think really like we collaborate a lot with a lot of different departments and really try to use all the resources that we have, even though they're maybe not always dedicated to the Wizards at all times, to create, like you said, that breadth of content that everybody has to have now. And we have a crew that works really, really hard, that does some awesome stuff. And I think just trying to continue to grow, and we're always trying to grow what we do and change what we do, tinker with it. So yeah, it's a small team, but I think we're really proud of all the stuff that we've been able to create. Specifically, like when I mentioned when we were in the playoffs and all that stuff, we did a great job creating a bunch of different content, always being there with the team, and really having that buy-in from the whole organization. And that's something that I think we're really proud of.
How do you guys work together? Is there are you submitting creative briefs? Do you have a weekly meeting? Or do you guys use a a program like Trello or Asana to track projects? And I guess also, how does it tend to work in terms of who kind of decides what story we're telling or what content we need to create? Like if you guys want to do a 24-hour still game one of the playoffs, who decides that needs to be done and then assigns it?
Yeah, so that I mean, those kinds of decisions come from us, come from our digital department, and then we'll put in requests. We'll schedule meetings with our video production team or our graphic design team. For example, coming up with all of the creative for the coming season, score graphics, game day graphics, things like that. It starts with us scheduling a meeting, like a kickoff meeting with our graphic design team and talking with them about our marketing look for the year, our brand guidelines, things like that, and how they can apply to what we want to do. And then from there, we submit a bunch of requests in Salesforce and then just kind of check in with them and they check in with us, and then we kind of just trade back and forth, trade drafts back and forth, notes back and forth, and then we get there.
No, it's super cool to hear the process, and I appreciate taking us inside a little bit. And I'm sure, especially when you guys start up your season, and the Capitals are already going to be in the middle of their season, and the arena still has its events going on, and the broadcast and everything, there's probably so much demand on that production team and creative team, and it requires you to, I'm sure, to plan well in advance, so that if Bradley Beal is about to have a milestone coming up in his career, about to break, or someone's going to break a record, or Rui Hachimura is going to make his debut, you have to think about all these things so far in advance, let alone going through media day and player shoots right now, as we were talking about a little bit offline. And so it just speaks to the importance of having a plan and making sure that you can articulate those needs to the creative team. You can't expect them to read your mind. If you want something to look a certain way, feel a certain way, you got to be able to convey that. So
definitely, they work totally crazily hard on all that kind of stuff, and it's a lot of organization, but the other part of it, for my job and kind of a big part of what I do is working on a lot on our consistency with all of our digital graphics, things like that, and the kind of along what you were talking about, learning to do video kind of from scratch in college. Not from scratch, but I've had the opportunity to really grow in Photoshop and have the ability to kind of work with our creative team and take some things off their plate, take small things off their plate.
Yeah.
If I can chip in. So that's the other part of it too, is that's been kind of an area of personal growth too. That's been helpful to the team for sure.
So you kind of have a bucket or a bar in your mind of this is something that I can do myself or one of my colleagues can help me with, as opposed to, okay, now this is something that, it's a hype video before a first game of the playoffs. So this is something that needs to go through our more professional production team, I guess. You kind of considering that, this is just for social, for Instagram stories, versus this is something that's going to be huge?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
if there are big content pieces, features, obviously that's always trusted to our production, our graphic teams, because they are awesome at their jobs.
Yeah.
The little things that I can take off, familiarizing myself with the style, things like that. And that goes for our whole team too, making sure that we're all being consistent. So that we can help them out as best we can. That's a big part of it too.
One last thing on this organization, because you're teaching me a lot, which is awesome. What is that asset sheet, or as you're planning all these creative requests heading to the season, like score graphics and whatnot, is it a giant Excel sheet for you, and with specs and with needs? Or what does that look like in terms of you keeping track of everything and making sure you get everything you need for the first game to tip off?
Yeah, we're big Google Docs fans, at least in our department, and so we get a working document going of all those things and make sure that everybody's reviewing them before we're submitting, the official requests with, of course, sizes and all those things. But that's the other big part of sitting down with our graphics team or our video team as well, is we'll come to them with that document, we'll go through it, talk through it, and then we'll be like, okay, these requests are coming your way now that we've talked it through, and that way we're all really on the same page, and we've all kind of been able to chip in the brainstorm before we submit those requests, as opposed to us just submitting requests and saying, all right, here you go, this is what we want, we'll go from there. It's more of a proactive approach, and it works for us. So
no, totally. I mean, a theme already is emerging, and just communication and being on the same page with everybody. A few minutes left here with Chris Gehring. He's Senior Manager of Digital Media for the Washington Wizards. There's so much more I want to pick your brain about, and something that stood out, a month or so ago, or whenever you guys posted this job. I don't know if you filled it yet. It was looking for someone to help on social and with content, and someone that was fluent in Japanese. Given Rui Hachimura, star player from Gonzaga, your first round pick this year, starting with the team. A future Japanese American superstar. So tell me about what the origins of that role was and how you see it being activated this year.
Yeah, so it was really just born out of this a tremendous response from from the day we drafted Rui on. The growth we saw, the response we saw from his Japanese fan base and certainly our fan base too. We learned that, having Japanese specific content to serve a really big and growing audience for him, as he's one of the faces of a growing basketball country. And so trying to adjust to that and serve the needs of that has been a big part of this off season. And those things are still ongoing, and, we're figuring out how best to do that. But certainly having like a content producer that can communicate with Rui, communicate with his Japanese fans in their language is a big focus for us going forward, and it's really exciting. The media attention that he's gotten in Japan, we saw it in Summer League, and I'm sure we'll see it at Media Day this coming week and all that. It's really exciting, and he has handled it incredibly, which is cool to see, and he's just kind of really embraced it and eaten it up, which has been really cool. And I think will be a part of what's going to make this season really fun.
Really enjoy learning from Chris and being able to continue to see what he does in this industry. One of the smarter people out there for sure, and really does a great job with everything that he does and continuing to do great work now in the space. But that'll do it for this episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. Thanks again for coming along on the ride on this best of edition. We're going to be back with more new episodes. I highly recommend checking out the podcast feed. You can listen to all these full episodes, as well as any other episode you want to go back to. Scroll along. It continues to blow me away, the guests that I'm able to have come on this podcast, the great conversations we're able to have, everything we're able to learn. So definitely check it out and continue on following along on the podcast. We have more episodes coming up. This is Neil Horowitz. You can find me on Twitter at NJH287. On the website is dsmsports.net. LinkedIn as well. You can connect to me there and find more content. And of course, check out the podcast, subscribe so you don't miss an episode on your preferred podcast platform. Until next time, this is Neil Horowitz signing off for the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast.